for coming. I know it's the 9 o'clock after the social hour, but we'll get started so that Seth can have his update next. Um, this is our GemTalk GemStone update. And first describe the company, founded 1982 and shipped the first version of GemStone in 1986. Then there's been a series of acquisitions and spin-offs and so on, but we are now GemTalk Systems. And that has been since 2013, so over a decade now. Among the customers, yes. GemTalk Systems is a LLC wholly owned by Dan Ware. Yes, so we went into VMware in 2010, and then, as long as you asked, VMware had 8,000 employees in 2010. In 2013, they had, I think, 14,000 employees, and no. And VMware bought us for the Java product. And we were the expression we have is the red-haired stepchild. But things generally went fine. VMware, we were profitable and still are. And while VMware was growing, they were happy to just let us continue doing our thing. But then a new CEO came in, and the mantra changed from synergies, which means acquisitions, to core competencies, which means layoffs. And so you have to learn the MBA speak. So we were actually the first divestiture from VMware. And Dan Ware bought the business, the team, kept everything intact, gave us all, another decade, 2 decades of future. I think I will need to pass on that question. But the financial arrangements were private. But we have maintained staffing, we're growing, and financially, doing fine is the status. Customers, JP Morgan, Intercontinental Exchange, Momentum, Lifeware, we have some people here. Guava is a company in Australia. Manufacturing, Texas Instruments runs their wafer fab plants on Smalltalk. And Onto is a company that has taken some of that software. HTS is one of our customers new in the last decade or so, and is growing. They are in Toronto. H.B. Fuller has been with us for a number of years in Minnesota. Telecom, telecommunications, Condus, of course, is originated at Siemens, now at Telecom, and SPL also is, I think, a German company. Government verticals, Canada, border security, visa processing for Norway, Dutch Agricultural Institute keeps track of agricultural data. We have partnerships, companies that do VAR, where they build software, sell it, or provide software as a service, other related things. Conferences, Faro, ESUG, FAST. We've been coming here. I was here at 2007, the very first year. That was a lot of fun. I don't know how accurate it is, but the story I like to tell is that Hernan or someone contacted Monty and said, "Would you send us a video?" And he said, "Well, let me check." And he said, "Can I send someone?" And we did that, and instead of a 2-day conference, we had 2 days plus a tutorial. Um, yes. Team changes. Will Erickson, many of you knew from support. He has pretty much retired, though still contracting with us some. This last summer, we hired Greg Hess in QA. There's been a couple more that we've reported in previous years. The picture we took some time ago doesn't have the most recent hires. So, GemStone, how many have a feel for what it is? Okay, a number of you. How many of you have used it? Okay, similar. We are often asked at these conferences to include, 5-10 minutes on what is GemStone, particularly for those that are new, for students. We like to give you an idea. So traditional object-oriented environments, Python, C#, Ruby, and the traditional Smalltalks, Faro or something like that, will have an object space that's limited to one VM, an object space that's limited to one host, object space is limited to RAM, and object changes are lost when the VM exits, unless you go through the process of saving the entire image. With GemStone, the object space is visible to thousands of VMs on thousands of machines. It's limited by disk, not RAM, and changes are made using database semantics. ACID is the acronym often used for database: atomic, consistent, isolated, durable. So object changes are guaranteed to be persistent once you commit a transaction, which can be very, very fast. Scalability: billions of objects, thousands of users, thousands of machines, thousands of transactions per second, terabytes of data. Concurrency: multiple user sessions, built-in, commit, abort. Optimistic concurrency, pessimistic concurrency with locking, namespaces, shared and private. Security, object level security, read or user, group, and world. Login security, user password with various kinds of authentication. Administrative privileges, so that you have to be a certain user to do something. And again, this is 100% Smalltalk all the way down. The interaction with the database: if you want to do a backup, you send a Smalltalk message, and that does the backup. We are ANSI compliant with classes, methods, blocks, exceptions, all the expected features of Smalltalk. But being a database, we support large collections, millions of objects, and you can optimize searching with B trees, with equality indexes and identity indexes. And the equality indexes can be sorted such that you can look at things in an alphabetical order or any kind of sort order that you've defined for those objects. Interfaces to other Smalltalks. The VAST platform, we have a library that you can install into your client Smalltalk and then interact with the database, replicating objects from the client to the server. VisualWorks, Pharaoh, we have not the full transparent replication, but a number of tools that we'll look at. Jade and Jadeite is available. We'll look at that. Other languages, C, there's a gem builder library, a DLL, or a shared library that you can make calls to, and it will interact with the database for you. A Java library, interfaces to Oracle, Postgres, Sybase. The last two are open source available. Platforms, Linux, both on Intel, AMD, and ARM. The Mac OS available on x86 as well as Apple Silicon. I think the slide says M1, M2. There's been more M's since then. Oracle Solaris, IBM, Raspberry Pi, and then client, we also support Windows for clients. Syncom and instantiations, we provide libraries that will load into that and give you the transparent replication. Jade is an open source IDE. I think you may have seen a demo of it in the Telecom Argentina presentation. It's built in Dolphin, open source, and of course, being Dolphin, Windows only, but supports GemStone, lots of good tools. There's a link to the URL for it to download. Here's an example of the system browser with dictionaries, class categories, classes, method categories, methods, code editor. So again, very traditional tools. Yes.
Excuse me, James. Jade runs on which Smalltalk? Jade, or is it's those cities, yes, or
This is built in Dolphin.
okay, that's right.
But it is not a two-space.
Oh, okay.
This is not the same as the GBS tools in VisualWorks
So it's like
and
a big
VAST.
product. It's as a product.
This is a x.exe file. It could have been written in C#. It could have been written in .NET or anything else.
And why do you use Smalltalk then?
Why? Yes. So yes, this happens to be written in Dolphin, but when you run Jade, unless you're running it in the development environment, you cannot see the Dolphin code. You are not so part of the drive for this is, although the two object space is very powerful, it adds a level of complexity and confusion. And my goal with Jade is to make it look like there's only one object space. You cannot see the client Smalltalk because it's a .exe. This is not Dolphin. This happens to have been built in Dolphin. But when you log in, you are only always forever looking at GemStone completely. And again, I think of that as a feature, particularly in an environment like when you are wanting to build a back-end system that has web services or API that you just contact through socket. Then there is no client Smalltalk. It's just the web and the back-end server.
So that raises the question in my mind: is what's Gemstone's attitude, orientation towards improvements in other dialects coming into the Gemstone base?
Okay, what is our attitude toward improvements in other dialects coming into the GemStone base? Well, I will start with Pharaoh because that is, I know we're in a QS environment here and others, but Pharaoh happened to have been the place where Seaside came into the open source community. And 15 years ago, it was a compelling marketing thing to say, develop in Pharaoh, deploy on GemStone. And so a fair amount of effort has been given to making GemStone compatible with Pharaoh. Now, going beyond that, I think if Seth wanted to give us his source code, we could try moving it into GemStone. But the commercial dialects, the parts that are open source, yes, we could port them in. But other than arranging a license, which I'm now up here talking and Seth is sitting there, wait, shall we negotiate a license? but yeah, I mean, no, Seth is a great friend of GemTalk, and we are very happy with our relationship there. But am I answering the question of how do we feel about bringing things in?
Yes, you are. And then there's a follow-up question, which is, if one uses Gemstone, can Gemstone support multiple dialects of Gemstone, or is there only one dialect of Gemstone Smalltalk?
Um, you are hitting on a fascinating area. So each version of GemStone has its own built-in class library. Okay. And then it supports Monticello, Metacello, Tunnel, various library package managers, and other things. We'll get into that a little bit. So yes, you're welcome to load libraries. Now, some years ago, there was a project that was technically successful, but did not achieve market penetration, particularly, of running Ruby in GemStone. And a few years ago, I presented at ESUG where I loaded the Pharaoh class library into a second environment in GemStone and ran the Seaside from Pharaoh rather than Seaside from GemStone. And so it would be another talk, but I would love to give it, of how you can put different class libraries in GemStone and have them adjacent to each other. So you can have an ordered collection that has that's named ordered collection, but as a completely separate set of methods, and an array that has completely separate methods. Yes, yes, yes.
Does that also applies to the string class? I mean,
String, native, yeah, yes.
you can
String, you can have different methods.
and on one side, Visualworks or Faro or Bast, that each one has a very different idea of what a string is,
Yes.
especially with regards to Unicode. And how do you handle that?
So GemStone has something called environments. And so a class has not one method dictionary, but a collection of method dictionaries. And so if you're in environment 0, you're using the default native vendor shipped class library. If you're in environment 2 running Pharo.js, then you're running the Pharo class library, method dictionary for each of these. And in fact, we can insert classes in the lookup chain.
Wow. And classes can have different shape.
Classes can have different shapes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And when in the timelines of that kind of functionality start being introduced, and when was it mature?
Well, the function, when does that mature? The functionality is there for anyone to use right now.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying presumably it wasn't there in version 1 of GemStone.
Oh, when did that come in? Oh, sometime in version 3. Yeah. 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, I think
It's been there a while.
Yeah.
I mean, this was the maglev Ruby project.
I gave a talk about that 2012. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Jade browser, Jadeite is a fork of the IDE that is supporting Rowan, Git, tunnel file format, migration from store into GemStone, and so on. Licensing, let's see, licensing models, community edition, you can use it. The repository size is limited, the shared page cache is limited, but there's something like 50 gig repository, which is quite significant. And you can use that in commercial use, perpetual annual subscription, VAR, if you're building something and selling services, just give us a way to share what you're earning. Different prices, support, again, web 24/7 if you're a premium paying customer, mailing lists, our engineers are on that. Now, we've had fun talking. We're gonna zip through the last things here. Part 3 is the roadmap. Version 3.6.8.3 was in May, 3.743 was in July. We're still some features in 3.7.1. External session, you can now fork a process, a Smalltalk process, and it will live after your own session logs out. Collection classes, we now have more efficient tree dictionaries and tree sets. It used to be that when you grow a set, it would have to double the size of the index or buckets. And now the list is much more of a tree, much more scalable, consistent, reduced conflict improvements, config for gem code size, stopstone waits and blocks until it everything is gone. We've added some parts of traits, not the whole features, but the ones that some of our customers were using and wanted to port code in. Sockets, X509 has a lot. JWT, I believe that's the JavaScript web token we had a talk earlier in the conference on authentication, authorization, and things there. So JWT is used, supported in GBS, so you can log in that way. New classes for that. Log rotate, you can have logs automatically rotated. 3743, 375, more network protocols, key rotation, restore from backup, monitoring with something called log stash, searching, parallel do. One of our customers had some things they want split large job across multiple VM, multiple hosts. And we have an open source project of Jadeite for Pharaoh. So now browser, and here's an example of what that looks like with code browsers, inspectors, and debuggers, and things like that. Open source, GemConnect for Postgres, RabbitMQ, and I've gotten permission from Hocus to say that they are hiring. We were talking to them a couple months ago, and they said, oh yes, they would like to hear from people. So some of you are getting
I'm not looking for it.
Yeah. Hernan, you need me to hold that slide for you to pick up that address. So any further questions? 2 minutes? If not, we can let Seth get started.